G'day there, Intergalactic Fabricate bringing you a tutorial from Garrett Alexander. Now today we're going to make 2D images appear as though they're a 3D image by putting them together, creating a scene, and then putting in some text. Very cool stuff, and let me show you what I'm talking about here. So as you can see, we've got our 2D images here put together to create a 3D scene. We can then create a camera and move around this scene and get some very interesting camera angles. We've also got our text here appearing out of the gloom, and I'll show you how to create that as well. So lastly, we've got this snow here, which is a very easy particle effect to achieve as well. Now of course, with this technique you don't have to do a tundra. You could easily do a cave system or a jungle or a space station. Anything you want to do, it's all very easy. Alright, let's get started and I'll walk you through it. So opening up After Effects, we want to create a new composition. 1024 by 576, a 16:9 comp, sounds good to me. And we'll make it 4 seconds long. We'll click OK. Now you want to have some images already so we can play around with them. Selecting your images, I got mine off Google, but if you've got some promotional images you can use already, all the better. Now you want a background, obviously. We also want our midground, and we've got some foreground there as well. Now at the moment these are all just 2D images. Go to our one view here, and if we move our images around, you'll notice that they're just on the X and Y axes. Nothing too interesting there. But we can make these images 3D very simply by clicking these boxes here. Now all our images are 3D. You'll notice that we now can move them in the Z axis. Third dimension. Very cool. Now what we're going to do is set up these images to create a scene. So we also need to create a camera. We're going to go to Layer, New, Camera. We're going to have a 35mm lens, and we're going to enable the depth of field as well. And click OK. Now to view our camera and our images a bit more clearly, we're going to go to our Select View Layout button and make 2 views horizontal. Instead of the one, we're going for 2 views. Now as you can see here, this is going to be our top view. We have our camera here that we can move around in the X, Y, and Z axes. We also have all of our images on our plane. Now as you can see, this image here, our snow hill, has actually been moved back already in the Z axis. So what we're going to do is actually move our background to the rear of the comp, lining that up with the composition. We've also got our foreground here. Now I'm going to use this as the floor of the composition. So we're going to open up our transform options and start moving around our orientation. Our last one here is our Z axis, and this is our X. So we're going to angle this and then drop it down. Now when you're creating a 3D scene, you have to be careful in order to create consistency. You notice that the light on the floor here, the light is hitting it in a certain way. So we also want to line that up with our background and our midground as well. So with our midground, we're quite lucky in that the light is just hitting it, I'd say probably at this angle as well, creating the shadows in here. We've also got our background. So we'll bring that forward a bit, and we'll have a look at where the light's coming from that. Now the light appears to be heading over this way. So what we can do is just click and drag this around. Easy as that, and we've matched the light settings. So what we're going to do is push this to the rear again of the composition, and we're going to scale this one up so it covers the whole of the comp. We'll just move that around there. We then have our midground. Now there is some sky in there already, and I think we should cut that out and use the sky of the background. So we'll solo that layer, and we're going to draw a mask around the bits we don't need. So just there, 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 and there. We're then going to hit M invert the selection, open up the rest of the options here. We're going to feather that out and also expand the mask. So it's got a nice drop off to it. We're then going to click our selector tool here, move this over, and then unsolo the layer. So what we're trying to do, like I said before, is blend all of these layers in, and also when we move in 3D space, really sell that effect. So that's looking good. We've got our foreground here. We're going to drop that down, and already you can start to see that the layers are blending quite nicely. Now we are going to do a color correction as well, just to really sell the effect. And I think we'll use this floor here, just like that. Good. Alright. Now we're going to put a mask on this one here as well. Now we can just use our rectangle tool, draw it around there like so. Open up that mask, attributes again, invert the selection, and we're also going to feather and expand the mask. Maybe we'll drop that feather off a bit more. Great. So that's cut it off a little bit there, but that's fine. We can also just go back into here and select it and move it until it fits in nicely again. Let's have a look. Like so. Now to get a better view, obviously you can go back to your one view here. Not quite convinced. I think we'll grab this, just move it to there. That'd be nice, but we're getting this cut off here. So, two ways we can do to fix that. We can extend it, but you may lose some quality. So, we can always just motion tile it. Click and drag on the snow. We want to mirror edges and crank up our height. There you go. It's just repeated it. Looking good. Now, the colors are a bit off as well. It's a bit distracting. So what we're going to do is color correct each individual layer and then put a color correction adjustment layer over top of everything. So we'll start with this layer here. Very easy to do. Effect, color correction, curves. And as a guide, I'm going to try and adjust the color to match our background. So we're going for this spectrum here. Just takes a bit of fiddling to do, but not too hard. Good. Next we'll go to our hill. Do the same thing. Effect, color correction, curves. Whiten that up. Good. And just a final one for here. Now you can always select that, hit Control C, select your background, Control V. You've just done the same effect on there. Great, looking good. Now we're going to put a color correction on top of everything. So we'll go New, Adjustment Layer. We'll call this one Color Correction. It's good if you can spell. Effect, color correction, curves. So we can make this lighter or darker, make it a nighttime scene, make it blissfully white, painfully bright, I should say. Good, looking nice. Excellent. So now we have our 3D scene. Next, to sell this effect a bit more, we're going to add some snow. This is very, very easy to do. So what we're going to do is go to Layer, New. We're going to make an adjustment layer. We'll call this one Snow Storm. Effect. Actually, easier way to go to it. We're just going to type in snow here. As you can see, we've got a simulation called CC Snow. I'm going to click and drag that onto our snowstorm. And if we scroll through, you can see we already have pre-animated snow falling for us. Very handy. Now we can tweak this as well to integrate it a bit more seamlessly into our composition. Now you can change the amount, really make it a whiteout, or just have a few specks. I'm going to go somewhere in between. Alter your speed, how fast, your amplitude, everything's here to really tweak it to your needs. And I'll just bump up the opacity a little bit more, about 64. To really sell this effect, we can also turn on the motion blur, and for the comp as well. Now we've got blurred out snow coming down for us. Very cool. And just turning that off for a moment, we can go to our 2-view horizontal, click our camera down here, and if we start moving around, we can see how our 3D layers are coming together. So with this, we can get some very interesting and cool camera moves going on. Obviously, if we go out too far though, it starts to look a little strange. But keeping it in the parameters, we can move around this whole, make it wide there, there we are. We can go from down low, up top, side to side as well. So let's start our, or plan at least, our camera move from here. So what we're going to do is get some room for us, move this to the side, this over here as well. Looks like a good start for our camera position. So let's open up our transform, and we're going to put a stopwatch on our position and our point of interest, so a keyframe for both of those. I'm going to move along to the end at 4 seconds, and what I want to do is move in. I also want to scroll over a little bit and change our point of interest to here. So let's have a look at that. Nice and smooth. Very nice. Now to smooth those in and out, you can select your keyframes, right click, go to keyframe system and select easy ease or F9. So now it's going to smooth in and smooth to a stop there. Ease in and ease out. Great. Let's turn our snow back on. Very nice. Alright, well the scene is all nice, but it's missing some logo or some text. Let's get onto that now. So we'll create a new composition. Same as before is fine. Let's text time. So let's select our text. Now I've chosen simple runes as my text here. Nice font you can find on urbanfont.com. I'm a bit of a Viking buff, so I've gone with these, and I figure it's snow, so why not? Let's type in interfab and just center that in the middle there. We can go back to our one view for now as well. We won't be messing around with cameras for this. So we go, nice and centered. Now, while that looks nice, I want to make it look nicer. So I've got this ice image I found, and very crisp, very cool, nice and big. We'll hit F4, put the track matte, alpha matte, the image alpha goes behind the text. Sorry, difficulty getting that one out. Let's move this around so we've found something nice. That's good. Now, a cool effect I came across here was a roughen edges in the stylized department. So we're gonna plonk that on our text, and already it's roughened the edges. We're gonna change our edge type to spiky. Now if we start playing around with some of these settings, we've got some very icy effects already happening here. Kind of looks like it's freezing over or thawing out. So I thought that we could use this. Of course we can play around with each individual option to our heart's content till we find something that we like. But I'm going to animate the border here. So we'll start off with it very blurry, chuck it in a keyframe, go up to, let's say, 2 seconds, and we'll just bring that border back down so we can read our text once more. Good. We've also got evolution here, and if you wanted to get a mystical effect going as well, we could definitely start animating this. So why not? We'll go back to our evolution here, put in a keyframe, and 0 is fine. Go up to our 2 second again, and we'll try that out. So it's gonna thaw out for us gradually. Great. Let's also color correct this as well. Gotta love the color correction. And I want to... of course, no, this is not going to work. If you put in a color correction on where the track matte has been used, it's not going to affect it. So we'll get rid of that now, and we'll do it when we take it over to our first comp. So for now, I'm pretty happy with that. Great, so we'll select these, Control-Shift-C, pre-compose them. We'll call this text. Go back to our comp one, our project, find text, and bring it on in. Here we are. Now it's getting a bit busy here. Let's make some more room for us. We'll go back to our one view, and as we scrub along, we can see our text materializing. We're going to make this 3D layer, and we're going to position it just in the backdrop there. I'm going to have a look at so it's materializing out of the snow itself. I might move this over a bit. Great. Now it's time for that color correction. We can go to our effect, color correction, curves. Let's darken it a bit, just so it really stands out. Yeah, looking good. Maybe, yeah. Alright. Next, what I want to do is make a mask around this. I want this to appear a section at a time. So with our text still selected, pen tool, we're going to make a crescent around here. Now that doesn't look too much like a crescent, but never fear, we can always alter the mask. Good. Let's open up the mask attributes here. We'll feather that out and neg the expansion. Now we're going to have this text revealing slowly. So there's two ways we can do this. We can increase the mask expansion over time, or just manually move the mask itself. So we'll go for the mask expansion, and we'll do that at 1 second. Crank that up all the way. So it's going to gradually appear and then thaw out as well. Might have that happen a little bit later, and also ease that in as well. Great. Let's also duplicate this. Select that original layer, the one that's below, and we're going to color correct this again, so we can just go into our curves here and drop the color. Look at our final image here, and we want to make this looking a bit 3D. So if we drop the color there, we also need to go to scale, just hit S, take that down to 99, maybe even 98. There we are, looking a bit 3D. So let's play with this a bit more. Good. Nice. So as this fades in, it's going to look 3D as well. Fantastic. Alright, nearly done, nearly done, nearly done. Not much left to do, but nearly done. Let's give this a quick render out and we'll have a look. It's looking good. Let's make it look great. So what we're going to do is enable the depth of field on our camera. In order to do that, we might scroll up a bit here first. Open up our camera, go down to our camera options, and you'll notice the depth of field. Now we want to turn that on. As soon as that's on, you'll notice that not too much has happened. In order to change that, we'll increase our aperture here, and you'll notice straight away it starts to blur out the composition. Now what we want to do is have our text nice and clear and the background blurred out. So we could manually change our focus distance here and our blur levels. Instead, we've got a nice expression for you to use that's very simple. What we're going to do, scroll this up some more, hit one of our texts, hit P to open up the position, and we're going to alt-click on our focus distance, delete what's there, and type in length, brackets, pick whip to our position of our text, put in a comma, and then pick whip to the position of the camera, closing that off. Now you'll notice, as soon as we turn up the aperture, that our background is now blurred out, and that our text is nice and crisp in our foreground here. So what this expression has done has provided whatever length away the focus, the position of the camera is to the position of the text, it'll automatically change the focus distance for us, which is very, very cool. So let's render out this one and to have a quick look. We'll just make this nice and big. Alright. Huge difference. Looking very good. Alright, now the last thing we're going to do is put a bit of a natural camera shake in there, just to put the icing on the cake. So what we're going to do is go to the position of our camera 1 here. Now you see we've got our 2 keyframes here that have been eased in and eased down. What we're going to do is go to our animation workspace, clear this out of the way for us, just over here, and you notice we have the wiggler here. Now what we're going to do is select the position, shift click both of these position keyframes here, and I think we'll have the frequency at about 6 and the magnitude at 5. Now if we hit apply, you'll notice it's put in keyframes. As we cruise along here, you'll see the camera starts to wiggle around on us. Now that's looking a bit too much at the moment, so let's go back, Control Z, take down the frequency to about 1 a second, but we'll have the magnitude up to 8. And of course you can tweak this to as much as you want. So you can see every second we now have a bit of a wiggle on our position. We might also do that to the point of interest, and we'll change up the magnitude to 7. Scrolling through that, you can see it's a bit of a bumpy ride through this snowstorm to get to our intergalactic fabricate ice station. I just came up with that, sorry. Fantastic. Alright, I'm going to render this out, give you a look. And there you go, depth of field enabled. One last thing we'll do here, just to really sell the effect, is apply what we call a vignette. Now Top Gear does this a lot, as you'll notice. It's very easy to do. What we're going to go to is Layer, New Solid, create a black solid, calling this Vignette, we're going to double click on our ellipse tool just up here, invert the selection, go to our feather and our expansion. There you are. Very snazzy indeed. I hope you enjoyed following this tutorial today, guys. Bit of a fun one. We'll hope to see you next time on Intergalactic Fabricate. Don't forget to come back to check for more tutorials, tips and tricks, and other knickknacks in the visual effects industry. I'll see you next time. Cheers.